Close the door behind you. You're now in the green room.
Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Green Room. My name is Keddy Emmanuel, and I'm your host. Today, I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Why? Because I'm here with Corey Christian. He's a friend of mine here in Boston. He is an engineer and bassist, and he's a phenomenal bassist. You actually saw one of his features that we've had on the platform at the top of this episode. So you saw for yourself. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Corey, can you go ahead and just introduce yourself to the people? Tell them a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I guess I'm this guy's friend. Corey Christian, born and raised in Boston. I've been playing bass. I'm actually a church musician. I grew up playing in the church, started around like 13 years old. And I've been playing now for it's crazy to think about it, but like the last 16, 17 years. So started out playing drums, kind of switched over to bass and stuck to the bass.
All right.
The best instrument in the band.
Here we go.
I think Eddie would agree.
So it's funny because myself and Corey have a very, very similar story. So I also started playing bass at like 12 or 13, also started in church. I'm also an engineer. We also have the same middle name, but that's neither here or there. Yeah. But so you mentioned that bass is the most important instrument in the band. Is that really the reason why you switched from drums to bass? What was the story?
I might be a little biased, but thinking about when that happened, the switch. So Keddy and I, we also have a mutual friend, my cousin, CJ. So I actually started out playing drums. CJ's a drummer. So what actually happened was we both started playing music in the church around the same time. We would switch off on the drums. So one of us would always be free, not playing anything. 1 week, though, there happened to be a bass laying around. CJ was on drums, and I just kind of picked it up and started playing it like periodically. And then Christmas of that year, my mom connected with one of the other senior musicians at the church. She saw how much I loved playing the bass whenever I played it, and then they bought me a bass for Christmas. All right. And then since then, I've just been playing bass. So yeah, that's kind of the story of how I migrated from drums to bass, and I'm happy it happened. So,
all right,
shout out to CJ. Shout out to CJ.
I know he's gonna be watching this. So here's the thing, right? I often find on this platform, I think it's kind of crazy to think that we've had the green room on the Cadence platform, previously Ocean Musicians, for about 2 years now. We're approaching the 2-year mark. And of all the people I've had the pleasure of speaking to, almost everybody starts in church. Every single person. Almost everybody I've talked to, at least is currently still playing in church or is, that's where they started, And so I think there's something very unique. I remember speaking to Jay from Antigua about this same thing. And he was saying that there are a lot of things that you learn from playing in church. How would you add to that? What are some things that come off the top of your head that you think, as a musician, church is a very good and unique place for you to develop?
That's a good question. I think one of the things that makes church unique compared to other environments, it's a very supportive environment. So you feel very comfortable coming out the gate. There's a lot of people who believe you should be using your gift for God and for the Lord. So it's a very safe environment where you could kind of, starting out, you don't want to be making too many mistakes, but it's a very supportive environment where, like, if you do make a mistake, no one's going to actually like look at you in a negative way. They'll kind of train you up, give you pointers. Yeah, I think that's probably the main reason. And it's just like, once you're around those musicians in church, they're always willing to help you learn, whether it's after church. You know, like when we were growing up, we were in church all day.
All right.
If we were running around, we could just go to the music corner and kind of dabble on the instruments. So I think there's some of that as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, man. When I initially started, right? I remember just as a little kid. So for those of you who may not know, so a lot of churches have Wednesday night services. They have Sunday night services. I would go in specifically on those nights, just kind of sitting there waiting to see, all right, is there anybody else to play bass?
See if you get your opportunity to get in, right?
Yeah. And I think, as you said, it's a very supportive environment. But also, another thing that Jay spoke to was it can also be very unpredictable, which teaches you to think on your feet.
That's true.
You know, because think about it, right? If you have, because oftentimes at work or just in regular life, you'll speak to people. By the way, let me know if I'm peaking on your end.
No, you're good. You're good. Okay. Volume's good.
All right. So at work or in regular life, you talk to people and they're like, "Yeah, you part of a band?"
Right? Someone just asked me that like 2 days ago. Like, I told them I'm a musician. They're like, "Are you part of a band?" That's always a weird question for me to answer, because it's like, I don't really consider it a band, but like, I guess we are a band weekly.
Yeah, because it's kind of outside of your framework, right?
Right.
But in the whole band framework, you know, you have a set list that you learn, that you rehearse as a band together. Mm-hmm. You get it down, you get it right, and then you go perform places. That's great, and you know, that's wonderful. But in church, you just have songs just thrown out at you, just off the cuff. Mm-hmm. Some lady in the back just starts singing.
The worship leader just goes into a song sometimes that wasn't planned, but
right.
Yeah, that's the unpredictability of it. And sometimes they're just going where the spirit leads. So yeah.
Yeah, man. And I think that's very good for development as well, for sure.
Sure. Agreed.
Yeah. So hear me out. So now you've been playing for a while. Did you have any formal training, by the way?
Never. So that's one of the things that, like, if I could go back in time, and my mom tried to get me into formal training. I might have been like 7 or 8, and I just wasn't having it. I didn't want to do it. And like I mentioned before, I kind of picked up and started playing when I was like 13. I wish I kind of followed through, and like, I wish she pushed me harder into that. But other than that, never had any real formal training. It was more so like I had mentors in the church, mostly organists or pianists. I didn't really learn from bassists. I really learned from organists and pianists, which is also interesting. A lot of like just following where their left hand is moving, their bass hand, and translating that to the bass. So that really learning that to watch where their fingers were going and picking that up on bass. That was really something I really picked up on early days. And then I guess the only sort of formal training I had was I was part of the Berkeley City Music Mentoring. That's a high school program in the Boston area for high schoolers who are interested in studying music. So My cousin and I were actually in that. We did that like 11th grade and 12th grade. So that's probably the only formal training I had. And I started playing maybe 2 or 3 years before that.
Okay, so this Berkeley City music thing, what was the syllabus like? What was that like? How much did they cover?
Yeah. So they would cover like very basic like music theory. This was probably my first exposure to formal music theory, other than like what the pianists and organists were kind of showing me at church. So, you went through the, every good boy deserves fudge, learning how to read looking at how many sharps are on the on the sheet music to know what key you're in. And then going through formal air training. Before then, we had already like been immersed in air training, but that was where I kind of like formally did air training, which is very useful for me now because most of the playing I do is in church, like I mentioned, and a lot of that is just picking things up with your ears as opposed to reading the music. So got some formal air training there. And then we were also always paired with a mentor bass whatever instrument you were playing. So I was paired with a bassist each of the years that I did that as well. And I learned quite a bit from each. So
you remember who those guys were, or you want to mention them?
One of them was Kyle Miles. And then the second one, I might have had one session with them. It was Juan Maldonado. Good bass player, great bass player. I think he's still in the Boston area. I think Kyle might be in New York, but yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Shout out to them, man.
Shout out to them.
Now here's the other thing you mentioned that was interesting. So you mentioned that you basically learned through following the left hand of these organ players, right?
Well, left hand of the pianist, and then like bass pedals of the organist / left hand. Yeah.
Okay. So how do you think that may have helped or hurt your development? Just overall.
So it helped in the sense that I knew how to play those guys I was playing with. Mm-hmm. I learned their styles very quickly and where they wanted to go. So it's good for me as far as like playing with them. I guess one way it could hurt is if I'm used to playing with a particular player style, it might be hard to pick up a new player style. Mm-hmm. And there was sort of a learning curve when it came to playing with new people. But that's what I think I'd say there. It's really the guys you're playing with on a regular basis, just learning their left hand. You learn where they like to go with the music, and you really learn how to build that chemistry with them. So that's a good thing, I'd say.
Yeah, man. Like when I started, it was similar, but at my church, we didn't have a keys player, period. Right. So it was guitarist. We had no keys player. So I was looking at the guitarist just chording. So he'd be chording and playing the song. And I picked up very quickly, if I just followed the direction that he's going, right? Because I had nobody tell me anything about air training, nothing.
Well, that must have been hard, man. Following the guitarist, because it's like, at least with the keys, you can sit next to them and follow their left hand. But the guitarist is like, got to kind of like look, unless they're right in front of you.
Oftentimes he was right in front of me.
Okay.
Either right in front of me or to my side.
Yeah.
So I could kind of look over and see, okay, he's moving here. So, okay. Then I started to make these connections in my mind of like, when he moves here, that's like the 6. And then you start to connect and say, the song, I can kind of hear when he goes to the 6, and then, and that's where the 4, he goes down. And then you start to make these relationships. Yeah.
So you start to watch less.
Right.
And I was like, that, like what you said just reminded me, like with gospel music, you could kind of tell, like once you play it enough, you could tell where the music's going.
Yeah.
So like whether it's hymns or like a lot of the music we play nowadays, you could kind of readily tell where the music is going. So I guess you start watching a little less whenever you're playing with someone new. But man, watching the guitars, that must have been difficult. I don't know.
Yeah, man. And then slowly over time, then you start to make these. Okay, so if he's going 7-3, then there's probably a 6 coming after that. Then there's probably going to be a 2, and then a 5, and then back to the 1.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
you know, and then it all starts to make sense. But it all goes back to what you were saying about the supportive environment, right? Because under different circumstances, I don't think I would have the same patience.
I mean, that's the thing, right? You can't be like on a wedding gig and expect the same grace if you play off note.
Exactly.
You can't be on a corporate gig, but in church, it might be a little nicer. Depends on the church too, right? But yeah.
Yeah, man. Now you mentioned looking back, if you could have changed something, right? You would have probably, done a little more theory, right? Theory. Yeah.
Theory.
So are there any other common mistakes or like areas you think younger musicians could probably put in a little more work, just from what you've seen typically with, the younger generation coming up? Because we getting ripe, man. We're ripening.
I guess the one thing I would mention is something that gets overlooked a lot. The professionalism that comes with being a musician, like, so stuff outside of playing, right? Just the preparation, like showing up to rehearsals prepared. That's something that I think people should pay more attention to. Because you can be a great musician, but if you're showing up not like learning the music, rest of your band members and whatever institution you're playing for won't like that. Another thing is just like having, I guess it goes back to professionalism again, just having a positive attitude when you're showing up for these gigs. That could go a long way in getting another call back. You could play all the music well, but if you're like, I don't know, just kind of quiet, sitting in the corner, being mysterious.
Cold.
Like you might not get a call back if the next person is equal to you playing wise and they were nicer and more cordial and personable. Mm-hmm. And then lastly, I guess for the gospel environment, like reading music and stuff like that's not that important. So yeah, I wouldn't say that's too important in that environment. So yeah, I think the first two things that are typically overlooked, and both are related to like professionalism and just knowing how to be personable and a good added member to the band.
No, I think that's very valid, and I think that's that's probably what you do see most often, right? But from what I've seen, and I'm going to say this with a grain of salt, right? I don't want people to crucify me after I say this. But from what I've seen, generally, folks who don't have the professionalism, even at a young age, they generally don't change later on and just become professional.
That is true.
They just stay like that.
It could be a personality thing.
So maybe it's like, as you said, a personality trait that is just kind of built in. Yeah.
I could agree with that.
Yeah. But hopefully saying it on here with more awareness, people actually say, okay, let me start showing up on time, man. Let me start learning the music.
Yeah.
It's a big deal for sure, man.
Yes, sir.
Now, here's the other thing. I remember a couple of years ago, time doesn't make sense anymore, man. But a couple of years ago, we went to this thing that Reigns was doing, right?
Like going away or something from Boston?
Yeah, it wasn't his going away. I think it was a clinic or workshop.
Okay, yeah. That might have been a few years ago, man. Yeah.
A aside from Reigns, and this might be, I hope this this doesn't stretch the conversation. But aside from Reigns, are there any people that you'd say you admire musically that you want to bring up right now?
Definitely Old School Turtle. I mean, how can you leave out Frank? Everybody, if you're a musician, period, you go on like Instagram, you're gonna see Frank on there, blazing some song. Who else? There's the Marcus Millers. I like Daryl Freeman too. Daryl
Freeman. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I think those are the ones that come to mind first. And no, of course, Justin Reigns is, of course, like you mentioned, starting out.
This guy didn't even mention Victor Wooten.
Yeah, Victor Wooten's on there too, man.
I see how you feel, man.
The list could be endless. The list could be endless, man.
Sheree Reed? No, we don't.
Sheree Reed, yes.
All right.
Stop naming names. You don't want me to say no.
K-Bass, come on, man. K-Bass, Mono Neon. All right.
And they're all killing. They're all killing, man. They're all killing.
But in terms of style, right?
Yep.
Because one of the reasons I love Reigns is really his style and his placement. Like, I don't think there's many people that, you know, I'm not ranking anybody, right?
Yeah, I'm not ranking at all.
we don't want y'all to get us in trouble, all right? But in terms of just style, I just love Reigns' style. Maybe because he aligns with what I probably want to do it in my head.
Yeah.
But, you know, I haven't had his training or experience or talent to do that.
Yeah.
But it just it just feels right to me every time, right?
Yep.
Do you have anybody like that?
Frank, man. Stuff he be posting, even though it's like 20-second clips, like, and it's like, yo, what is he playing? What is he doing? It just sounds crazy. I think he's definitely changed the game a little bit, just with his social media presence. So, yeah, and the stuff he's playing nowadays with Fred too. I'd say it's like Reigns and Frank right now for me too.
All right.
No order.
No order. Yeah, there's definitely something about Frank. He is. I would agree. He has kind of changed the game, man. And where is he from? I think he's from Florida.
I think so.
Yeah. So shout out to the Florida guys.
Yeah,
you know, and he's Asian too. So you know, the cadence approves.
And he got bass mod too, you know. So
well, there you go. Speaking of bass mod, right? I'm a Sire guy, right? But I have a lot of love for bass mod. Definitely have a lot of love for bass mod. What inspired you?
Pick up my bass, you're like, yo, this feels nice.
It does. Because here's the reason why. The difference is, and this is for everybody, I've already told them this, but I want to tell you guys watching and listening. With bass mod, it feels like the fretboard is more welcoming, right? To me, right?
So why do you have a Sire?
Well, yeah. I'll get into the Sire in a little bit. I'll get to the Sire. But the fretboard of the bass mod feels more welcoming. It feels more comfortable for me, just because of the length of the neck, and especially once you get past the second octave going into the body of the bass, coming up the neck. There's so much more space there if you want to do any chording, if you want to play anything nice up there.
Yeah.
It's way more comfortable for you up there. Whereas with the Sire, you have to understand, and I'm not an authority on this, obviously. So
you know, all the Sire players like, bro, what are you talking about?
I don't want Marcus Miller making a response video. Like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. I love the Sire. First of all, I love the Sire. I love it because of the preamp, just the stock preamp, the level of power, clarity, and also I love the slap tone, which is what it's built for, right? It's a Marcus Miller bass, so it does what it's designed to do very well. Where if you want to slap, you're going to feel that punch, and you're going to get that feel that you're expecting from a Marcus Miller bass, right? But it's not. It doesn't really seem to be designed for you to be chording like that,
Okay. Well, what I will add though is that everything you just named, that the Sire does well. Just wanted to add that the bass mod, it does it well as well. So I don't know. It sounds like you might be joining the bass mods family.
All right, guys. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you guys. If you guys are watching this right now, Sire Team Sire, I'm calling all of y'all together right now. I'm calling off the top of my head Shane Ryan in Barbados. Who else plays a Sire? I think we have some friends in the Dominican Republic. Somebody else plays a Sire on the platform. Anyway, if you're watching this and you play Sire, let us know in the comments. Sire versus bass mod. And also, if you're in the Cadence crew WhatsApp group, we're going to drop the question in there. We'll see what you guys think. All right. And help us settle this, right? Because he's going to keep pushing for bass mod. But aside from your bass mod, your love for bass mod, right? Is there any other piece of equipment, any other brand that you want to shout out, even bass wise?
I think I'll stick to the bass mods. Bass wise, I mean, I use Shure stuff, in-ears for sure. Shure is the name of the brand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, man. That's pretty much it. Those two.
I remember the time everybody was fiending for MTD basses.
MTD, wow. Justin's basses are still MTD, right?
Yeah, everybody wanted an MTD.
No, nobody's really. I think they're pretty expensive, right? Like it started at like 5,000. Like they're in the like multiple of thousands.
Yeah.
Get a good bass mods for 1,200 or something like that, 2,000 at most. So I think people are just priced out of the MTD, but I'm sure they feel nice and sound nice.
And see, going back to the Sire conversation, I just have to mention this. The other thing about Sire is they're giving you an experience that is supposed to cost a lot more, right? I got my Sire for $700, right? Mm-hmm. And for $700, I'm getting, in terms of power and tone, I'm getting something identical to the bass mod sound. Whereas for a bass mod, you're going out like 1,200, 1,500, 2,000.
I got mine for like 12.
Yeah. So for almost
16, 17.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for almost half the price, they're selling a bass that, is amazing.
But you're saying the neck is more welcoming. There's a reason why.
Yeah, but come on, man. Like the neck isn't that bad. Guys, I'm not saying the neck is bad.
The neck is welcoming. You said it's on.
The bass mod is just more welcoming, right? So
how would you feel going to play your bass and you're not welcomed? You don't feel welcomed by the bass.
I do feel welcome. I feel welcome. I feel welcome on the Sire for for the range that I'm typically playing in.
Okay, right? Fair enough.
So most of the time, it's not. You don't feel. I think
you get a better growl out of the bass mods, though.
Nah.
Yeah, growl.
Nah.
What?
Come on, man. You can get in terms of that low end growl. You can get that from the Sire. For sure.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
For sure. I'm not even debating that one.
Yeah. Okay. You're gonna have to show me that. You have to show me that.
I can guarantee you that.
There's a lot of variables that goes into that, though, like what strings you have on, your settings on the bass.
Right.
A lot of these bass could, in all seriousness, sound pretty similar to one another. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
And it's also not even just your strings, but you know the player as well. If you know where exactly you want to be plucking your bass, you know. But that being said, I'm gonna pivot to another question here because I think this is interesting. So I'll be honest with the platform, right? I'll be honest with you guys. I'll let you guys in. I enjoy playing gospel music generally more than secular music, right? I just do. I'm not sure exactly why. I don't have anything against secular music or anything like that. I just feel more at home playing worship music. Do you have the same experience or is it different?
Same experience, man. Like nothing against any other type of music, but I think it comes back to where we learned, right? And where we're most comfortable playing. Yeah. It's almost like you feel more one with the gospel music. But I will say though, the secular music can help with, I mean, I'm not saying I'm like bringing secular music in the church or anything like that, but it could help with like the kind of flavor and taste you're playing with the way you approach your gospel music as well.
All right.
But yeah, definitely at home with gospel music for me too.
Yeah.
I'd say it's probably like 80-90% of what I play for the most part. Yeah.
So I would flip what you just said and just rephrase it. I would say whereas I feel more at home playing gospel music, you'll find that playing secular music, it can really be good for your development, right?
Yeah.
And kind of expand your palette.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey, man. So you have any questions for me? Any questions for the cadence?
Nothing's coming to mind right now, man. I guess most of the other like musicians, you said they also started in church, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The majority of musicians I speak to on the platform, they all pretty much started in church.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Have you ever brought on like an organist?
You know, I haven't. We featured organists before, but we've never actually had.
Good question.
What's up?
What are your thoughts of organists playing pedals while you're playing bass? Have you ever been able to coexist with an organist
Guy
that's heavy on pedals?
Let me tell you something. So I'll tell you a story before I just directly answer the question. So this is when I just moved to the US, right? And for those of you guys who don't know, I moved up here when I was like 17, right? I left St. Lucia. And I had to readjust musically, right? So prior to moving here, I'd never played with an organist ever in my entire life, right? And so now, excuse me. Now I'm in this church, right? And I'm sitting next to this crazy organist, like beast organist. Like to this day, I still love him. He's extremely talented, right? Shout out to Sam. Love you, Sam. But he was playing some chords which were not very straightforward, right? And he was playing like substitutions on the pedals. And he was leaning into those pedals, man. Like playing.
And he probably looked you straight in the eye and smiled while he was doing it, right?
So I'm sitting there with my bass. Looks like I just peeked a little bit. Yeah, so I'm sitting there with my bass, and I didn't know what to do because my ear wasn't developed enough to like
know what he was doing.
Just know what he was doing.
Yeah.
So I know the song. I'm trying to play along, but sometimes I'm clashing with what he's playing. And I don't know what direction he's gonna go because he's creative. So he keeps reharmonizing, and playing different stuff. And that was a nightmare, man. That was that wasn't fun. Right? Yeah. And it's a pet peeve, actually. It's a pet peeve. If I'm playing somewhere and the organist just leans into those pedals, what are we doing?
Yeah. I guess the only situations where I don't mind that is if we're playing like a hymn. And if I'm the one who tells the organist, yo, you can play as well.
Okay.
Right. That's the only way. Like, I've done that many times, like at church. Like, if Adam's playing or something, Adam's is beast organist that we play with from time to time.
Shout out to Adam.
Playing. Yeah, shout out to Adam. If he's playing, like, if it's only if it's a hymn, where I would be like, because we know where it's going. It's very straightforward. It's very like, you're going to hold the 1 for 4 bars and you're going to go to the 4 for 4 bars, back to the 1 and the 5. Like, and I like feeling and hearing bass like during the service. So yeah, I'll just tell him, add in a little bit of organ bass and I'm going to just play straight as well. We have that chemistry where we both know what we're going to play. So other than that, if we're playing the other songs, like I don't want to hear, if we're playing some like CCM song, I don't want to hear any pedals or anything like that.
Yeah, because right there you're speaking to it taking a level of coordination and a level of alignment to actually even get into that. So organists out there, I've actually given this call before. I think I was speaking to Kiara from New York.
Okay.
We were talking about this exact same thing. I gave this exact same story. I'm going to give this call again. Organists, if you guys are watching this, leave some room for the bass player. You don't need to lean into those pedals. Make some room for the bass player, That's all right. Yeah, man. So how are we doing on time? It's 7:40. Are you good with time or do you have to go?
I think I have to go, I got a few more minutes.
Guys, I want to tell you, so the whole intention here is if you're watching this on Instagram live right now, this is the first time that we're actually doing this. I have this idea to try to consolidate our efforts to the Instagram platform. That's where most of our base is. And so if this is working out well right now, when you're seeing us live right now, then I'm probably going to be doing this moving forward. If it didn't work out this time, then you're probably watching it on YouTube as well. I think I'm going to post both regardless. But if you're watching this on live, thank you for joining us. And thank you for any reactions, whatever you've said. And we're only going to get better, right? So very quickly, when it comes to, because you do post covers and you post stuff on Instagram, do you have any advice for musicians or any common mistakes that you see musicians making on the gram that you think they should kind of stay away from?
I'm still learning myself, man. But I think just the basic stuff, like make sure your lighting is good, make sure video's good. And just make sure whatever you're posting is a good reflection of you. Like a lot of people are posting nowadays trying to like copy other people and what they play. Just, post what's true to you. If you want to post at all, you don't have to post at all.
All right.
So be true to who you are, your style, and don't be afraid to post either.
Right. A lot of people, like for me, my posting is almost like a level of accountability, right? Because, I try to give myself a kind of cadence, no pun intended, to how often I post, because then that kind of keeps me at least a little sharp and, learning music and kind of on the ball. So, yeah.
Another reason to post is like somebody might see your post and they might need someone on a gig or something. It's a good reminder to your community. Hey, I play bass. And and if you play well, they'll see you, you playing right there. So there've been many times where I've gotten hit up about like a gig for a church, wedding gig, just because they saw my video online. And another thing is, when someone's recommending you to sub in or like for a gig, they're gonna look you up on social media.
Yeah, they'll send.
If you have something that's on there, like it's guaranteed nowadays. If you're recommended to like play for a band or something, like they're gonna look you up. So make sure you post good quality content of yourself, because you can make money from it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Very well said. I'll add to that and just mention, guys, that one thing I see a lot of people doing is they'll have this great cover and an intro, and then they'll just have a bunch of text on the video at the very beginning writing out, okay, cover of this song.
Oh, yeah.
Bro, nobody cares about that. You can put all that in the caption. Because the thing is, on social media, oftentimes you only have a few seconds, right, of someone's time while they're scrolling. So in those first few seconds, if somebody's looking at text and trying to read what you're saying, whatever cover is going to be, unless they know you and they're invested in your content and they like what you do, where they'll stay and wait for the text to disappear off the screen. A lot of other people, you just lost their attention. They're gone. They're gone.
I think they're doing it for copyright purposes, maybe.
Well,
I agree with you, but yeah.
I think even that, right, in terms of copyright purposes, unless you like know the original off of the track and you have a relationship with them, and maybe you worked on some projects with them and stuff like that. If you're just a guy who's pulling a mainstream song, the copyright sniffer is already working on Instagram. And they've become super annoying too, because on the Cadence, there's a couple of days where we've posted features and the sniffers will just take it down, right? Or they'll ban the content in certain countries. Like they'll say, okay, this song cannot be played in Russia. Like, okay, cool.
Yeah, I've seen those.
Yeah, but overall, there's no real need for anybody to put that typical, I don't own the rights to this song. A lot of people do that.
Right.
I think that's a myth. I don't think anybody actually needs to do that. I don't think, because so many people pull mainstream songs and add their own artistic interpretation. If you're not flagged by the sniffers, then you're probably fine.
But I've seen people like they've had their page like shut down, and then they came back with a new page and they're adding that, and they seem like
really?
But yeah, I would agree, if the sniffers are just kind of like, if it's like audio sniffing, then whatever you write probably won't matter.
All right.
But yeah, man.
Because if you really think about it, even if you say it's like somebody stealing, right? Somebody walks into your house and takes your couch. This couch is not mine. As they're walking out the door.
That is true. That's
couch.
True.
I do not own the right to sit on this couch.
Or rob a bank. I do not own the rights to this money.
Yeah. Like, just use the track, man. And you're probably fine. But I don't know. There's always a possibility that there's something I don't know, right? So I'm open to that. I'm open to that. So guys, once again, you guys can let us know if there's something that we missed on that in the comments. And thanks for joining us.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me today.
Oh yeah, a pleasure, man. We need to have you back one of these days.
No, I'll be back.
Right. So everybody, as always, guys, I apologize. Our consistency has been suffering. There's been a lot going on, but it's no excuse. I don't make excuses for you guys. We will be back with another episode of The Green Room next month. So keep an eye out for that. Thank you so much for your support, and get into music.
Yeah.